English paper piecing sew along. I love Kaczmarek. Her English paper piecing patterns are amazing. I did 6 years ago her Millie Fiore as a sew along, and that was a lot of fun, a lot of work, but a lot of fun. So I hope you guys are excited to join in this sew along. This is one of her very new ones. So Millie Morsels, and I'm going to get some documents into the file. So it'll look like this lovely rainbow of hexes and her different designs. So what will happen each month, I'm going to send you files of what blocks are being used, their layouts. You will be getting in the kit, if you did the buy-in the kit, the new Hexagon 2. This is her latest book. And if you didn't catch, I went to PostNet, so I have them cut off the binding, spiral bind it, add a clear cover and a back to it, so it's easier to lay open and flat. Okay, this is my hot tip for you guys. Go get that spiral binding. It'll make life a lot easier. So what will happen is each month you'll get paper packs and fabric bundles of some sort. Okay, and you'll go through, you're going to cut your fabrics, prep them, and you're going to make a rosette essentially every month. Okay, easy enough. I like hand stitching because I can do it in front of the TV, traveling, whatever. It's kind of mindless is what I consider it. I can just kind of sit and stitch and do whatever in the background, and it's kind of relaxing. I like it. So each month, that's just going to be planned, is a simple rosette. Some of the first couple months will also have some pieces that you're going to do for the fill. I'll kind of address that later on, because right now I'm just focusing on getting kind of the very beginning steps, because some of you have never done English paper piecing, so I want to make sure I cover all the bases for you. I do recommend have a binder. I'm big on binders and sheet protectors and all that, to keep all your instructions in, because every month you're going to get a new set of instructions that's going to go along with this sew along. And by the time you're done, you're going to have all the fabric and papers and all that to make the entire quilt. So you will start getting some of the gray fill and those kinds of things also in the kits to do those steps also. So have a binder, get your book spiral bound, ignore the insane dogs in my home. Never ends. It's just how my life is, because my kids aren't here to take care of them. So today we're going to focus on cutting. There's multiple ways to cut for English paper piecing. My preferred method is, I just have them in my hand, templates. You can, this is additional purchase of buying the templates, and they come in different options. The newest option, which I think is kind of cool, is that they actually have the centers cut out, empty, so that you can really see if you're trying to do some fussy cutting. So fussy cutting is where you're going to take a feature in a fabric and try to specifically cut it out. So if you have fabric like this, I don't know if you can tell, it has some cool designs in it, some birds and things that we will potentially be trying to specifically cut out certain designs. Or even in the first block, there is this bee. Okay, so I made sure the bee was in the center of each of the hexes. So if you have templates like these, you can make sure, you know, whatever design you're doing, you can see. And then this is your seam allowance, is the outer edge of that template. So it's kind of nice. So you're making sure you know what's actually going to be on the paper, and then how much of it's going to be on the seam allowance. Just makes it easy. And I'm glad it's Friday. And I think I said it was Monday. It's been a long week, so glad you guys love me, because good God, what a hot mess today. Other steps for cutting. So if you don't want to invest in templates because they are kind of one and done for this, not necessarily. I mean, you can always buy papers that fit specific ones and do other designs. So you're not necessarily one and done, but for me, it is what it is. I don't plan to do any other crazy or design my own and those kinds of things. The other ways, if you're not investing in templates, is just using like rulers, marking tools, and the papers. So I'm going to, I think, move the camera and I'll just kind of give you an idea, a couple options, okay? So, because we really care about the actual technique, not what I got going on. So let's say you have these diamonds. And as you can see, so when you get your papers, I separate out all the different pieces into stacks so that I can then lay out what pieces are going where. So I also go to the dollar store and invest in a lot of Ziploc baggies. They are my friends. So depending what you're doing, like diamonds, you could cut a strip and cross cut them with your ruler and not worry about the papers. The only trick you need to make sure of if you're doing that technique with something simple like a diamond is that you're adding your seam allowance. So this paper, this is your final size. So when you're cutting your strip, you need to make sure that you're getting bare minimum 1/4 inch on both sides. Now these templates that I use are actually 3/8, which makes me happy because it gives just a little bit extra. I don't know if you can see, but these do say 3/8 seam allowance on them. So I like that little bit extra so that if I accidentally shift my paper one way or the other on my fabric, I'm not trying to curl it over with just a little bit of room to spare. So make sure you have at least 1/4 inch all the way around. So if I was going to cut a strip, I would cut it at least 3 1/4 and then figure out how much my cross cut. Okay, you can also use just a marking tool. So if you're trying to figure out, and maybe you want it specific certain ways on the fabric, like if I wanted to make sure that I was going maybe up and down, which this isn't wide enough, at a certain angle, or going exactly with this Harlequin design, I can lay it on there and I can just draw it. So I can say, okay, here's 3/8, and I just start marking, trying to make sure that doesn't move. You can use, what is it, scrapbooking tape, or like a dot of glue to hold it down so it doesn't move on you in the process. And that might help you out. So I'm just making sure I have enough seam allowance all the way around before I cut. Because nothing is more sad than starting to cut it and figure out that, like if I had done this and went, haha, oops, I lose my tip at the top and bottom, and maybe I'd already started to cut. Nobody likes that because then you're wasting fabric and that's just no fun. And by drawing it out, I can kind of see how it starts to look on that fabric. So I can say, oh, well, maybe I don't like how this design turns out. And so what's nice with friction pens is I go to my iron. As long as it's hot, I just start over. I iron my marks away and go, nope, okay, I want it this way or something, whatever you're working with. Or say something with a print, you could say, yeah, I want to make sure I get that leaf in there. And if I draw it out and that leaf all of a sudden doesn't look the way I want it to, you definitely can do over. So it is nice sometimes if you're trying to play with designs to just take that marker and draw it out if you're not using templates. Okay, so if this is just, you just don't want to invest, you can do this method and have fun with it. Okay, just keep drawing out your diamond. Let's see, it likes to stick. And that's why I like the scrapbooking tape. I just didn't dig mine out before I started, or just a dab of my glue stick. So I can just go all the way around and go, yeah, okay, I like how that leaf is there, or no, I want it further in the corner of this diamond, or whatever you want. Okay, so those are kind of the methods you can use. I definitely recommend if you're doing like diamonds and triangles and it's just, say like this grunge, you can cut strips and cross cut them, just making sure you have your seam allowance and not get all fussy with drawing it out. Some of those kinds of things. Or you can stack them. Just keep in mind if you're working with designs and you're trying to go quickly, like sometimes especially with fabrics like this, if I'm just having to cut a whole bunch of these, I like to have it stacked so I can cut, say, 4 at a time. But please note, if you're working with a design, like a piece like this one, let's just take one, make sure your angles are going the way they need to go, and make sure that you're actually stacking your fabric all right side, say, up. Otherwise, the one on the bottom is going to be the mirror image. Now, if you look at how this block lays out, potentially you want mirror image. Then you're good. Leave it together. If you need a right side and a left side, absolutely. Leave them stacked. And because like this one's skinny, I'll show you, I would potentially even do it this way and lay my skinny sides. Because it's grunge. It's not directional. You don't see anything. And then I would cut and get all 4 at once. And it would be 2 rights and 2 lefts. Hopefully that makes sense. So unless you're trying to fussy cut, it's a good quick way to get a whole bunch cut all at once. And just making sure. Now, if this particular piece only belongs on a right-hand side, though, you cannot fold your fabric this way. You do need to make sure that you're purposely stacking it right sides together. So right side up, then you potentially could lay your paper out, cut it out, because you only need them going one way. So things to keep in mind as you're cutting. You're going to learn all kinds of things as you go. You're going to make mistakes. All the fabric, go back to me, that you're given should be more than generous. If not, let us know and we'll take care of you. Don't worry. So the only other method you could do potentially is you could buy clear template plastic and create your own templates. So you could take and draw this out on clear template plastic with the seam allowance, make your own template. And the nice thing about clear template plastic is you can see through it, right? So you could still see for fussy cutting and all those kinds of things. The downfall of that that I ended up not liking is that it doesn't stop your cutter from cutting it. So I would potentially end up with nicks and things in my templates because I get a little crazy trying to cut around this really flimsy plastic template. So it didn't take long for me to move beyond that method and decide, no, I just like the hard acrylic ones because I can actually use them like a ruler, cut around my fabric and not have to worry about actually nicking the template itself. So that is another reason why I just advocate for the acrylic templates, because it just so much less that you have to worry about. They're very user friendly. They give you your seam allowance already, so you don't have to worry about not adding your seam allowance and forgetting that step, because that's very common. All those kinds of things. So those would be my methods. Either draw everything out and cut, and you can cut with scissors, you can cut with your rotary cutter, whatever you're comfortable with. I don't do a lot of scissor cutting, so anytime I can use my rotary cutter, that's where it's at. You know, I even have nearby. So I do recommend the smaller, the 28 millimeter rotary cutter, because it's just easier to get around smaller pieces, but I've been known to use my 45. So glad it's Friday. And it's just that kind of day. So 28 millimeter definitely is fine. 48 is, it's usable. If I'm trying to do, you know, tight corners and things, that's what I like to do. Our key goal in the end is that we're going to then baste our fabric to our papers and then start stitching them together. You can see I've got some in progress, so that you'll have rosettes in the end, till I'm still a little behind on all mine. I did give you a supply list. So in the Facebook group is a supply list. If you can't find it, let me know. I can email it to you. And if you have questions on that supply list, let me know, and I'll gladly explain anything that might be on there that you might not know what it is, or you might wonder why I really use it. any of those things, I will gladly tell you. But hopefully every week as I kind of go through this entire process, I'll explain most of those supplies that I tell you in detail as we go. So today was just my focus on cutting, because hopefully within the next week, all my pieces and parts are going to come in, most of it today, hopefully, and I'll get the kits shipped out to you. And I know a lot of you are going to be itching that you want to at least start cutting and getting ready. And then next week we'll talk about basting all your papers, and then potentially even get into stitching. I'm trying to keep the videos not too lengthy for you guys because I hate to bore you to death. And obviously with all the chaos going on today, you know, you're only going to handle so much of me. But hopefully we're going to get through all this, and then it's just going to be super easy, comfortable. You're just going to get your kits, you're going to get your papers, and every month you're just going to start cutting and basting and getting your rosettes done, so that by the time we get through all 12 months, yeah, you're stuck with me for a year. I don't know if you got that memo. We'll have a lovely English paper piece quilt, and then we'll talk about how to get it quilted and all those other things. So I'm excited for you guys. Thank you for joining me in all my mayhem on this lovely Friday. It's Friday. Oh, and look, I found my other rosette. Jeez. Maybe I need to learn how to day drink. Mimosas. That's what I needed. No, just kidding. It's going to be a long day. But so this is the idea, is you're going to make multiples of these and they're going to turn into one rosette. We'll get there. Thankfully, we have a whole month to kind of get you warmed up and ready. And like I said, if you have questions, guys, please reach out to me, email me, call me, find me at the shop, message me on Facebook, anything. I will gladly help you, because this is a lot to absorb if you've never done English paper piecing. I know there will be lots of questions, and it's okay. Do not be afraid to ask me questions. That's what I'm here for. And definitely with this project, there's going to be a lot going on, fabric placement and all those kinds of things. I know all that's going to come up. So please just raise that hand, ask those questions. And ask it even in the group, because there may be other people asking the same question and just not wanting to be the one to ask it. So you may be helping out your partners in your group. So just do it. All right, guys. Otherwise, have a fabulous Friday, because yes, thankfully it's Friday, and just keep on stitching.